Hi, I'm Elaine Sanchez. This story comes from Dorothy's journal. It's about Lila Mae, her daughter, and a difficult transition into memory care. This is what Dorothy wrote. Lila Mae was panic-stricken when she first came to us. Her daughter Jackie had convinced her that she was moving into a lovely new place where she would be happier than she had been in her apartment. Lila Mae had enough going on up here that she was fully aware this room was not going to be a better place for her to live. She had trusted Jackie's judgment in what was best for her, and now she found herself only in one room. Strangers were walking in and out, not even bothering to knock first. They were looking all over her things and sometimes touching them. And this was not home, and Lila Mae was not happy. On the very first day, Lila Mae started screaming, and no matter what Jackie did, Lila Mae would not stop. There was no assuring her that things would get better in time. I walked in the midst of this, and Lila Mae turned to me and demanded, "Well, who are you?" And I said, "I'm your angel of mercy." And she looked at me in total disgust and said, "You are no angel." I laughed, and Lila Mae stopped screaming for a little while. Jackie was beginning to doubt the wisdom of her decision. She had been told about wandering residents. Seeing it firsthand was different from hearing about it, and Jackie began crying. She now mistrusted her own judgment and forgot about the events that precipitated the move. She was overwhelmed with guilt, and she transferred her guilt to us. In her eyes, we couldn't do anything right. We were the cause of her mother's unhappiness, and this went on for weeks. Sometimes we could get Lila Mae to join in the activities and even have a little fun. But the minute Jackie walked in the door, the screaming and the accusations resumed. Jackie complained to us about our poor care on a daily basis. We did what we could to help Jackie see signs of improvement in Lila Mae. She was eating now. She had gained some weight. She was letting us clean her up and dress her in the lovely clothes that she had in her closet. Still, every time Jackie showed up, Lila Mae screamed. Lila Mae wandered much of the day, and we tried to have someone with her because even until she was asleep at night, because she was so weak and she had fallen a number of times. I hated having to call Jackie to report yet another fall. She thought the falls would cease once Lila Mae was in a sheltered environment. Jackie was not the first daughter we had dealt with who had unrealistic expectations. Adult children often think that once they put a loved one into a home, their need for worry is over. They think the home should provide one-on-one supervision 24 hours a day. Jackie would cry and yell, "What's the matter with you? Can't you take care of the people who trust you? Do you all sit around filing your nails waiting for people to fall?" She would go on and on. I had to fight myself from being defensive. It only increased Jackie's ire. The night Lila Mae fell and broke her hip, that was one of those nights when just about everyone in the place needed extra care. We tried to keep an eye on Lila Mae. All it took was a split second, looking away, and boom, there she was lying on the floor. I had to call Jackie. It was one of the worst nights of my entire career, but it did have an upside. The upside was that the period following Lila Mae's fall, we thoroughly enjoyed the calm and the additional time we had to spend with other residents. Lila Mae was away in care of hospital workers. We didn't have to worry about her, and we didn't have to worry about doing something that would make Jackie come after us, hurling insults about our poor delivery of care. We were pretty sure Jackie would use the time while Lila Mae was in the hospital to find a more acceptable place for her mother to live. Surely she would not want to return her mother to the care of such a group of incompetent dolts. We were wrong. For whatever reason, Jackie decided she wanted Lila Mae to come back to Ivy Lane after her surgery and hospital stay. She was alarmed when she heard that Lila Mae would have to go to rehab on another unit. I don't know who made that decision. We had cared for other people recovering from hip fractures. Why not now? Not that I was complaining. No, sir. I was not one bit in disagreement with the decision makers until I found out where she was placed. Jackie's alarm increased exponentially when she saw her mother's room. It was a double room with about a quarter of the space that Lila Mae had upstairs. The resident in the bed next to Lila Mae cried night and day. There were 36 residents on the unit and less staff than we had on the Alzheimer's unit. And the atmosphere was rushed. There was no time for fun and games. And the problem for me was that I often had to fill in on the unit where Lila Mae would rehab. I called it the station from hell. It was poorly organized, and many residents had critical needs. Most of them were crabby as hell, as were their families. So the surprising thing was that Jackie was actually glad to see me working there. I was someone she recognized who understood her needs. I began looking like a friend rather than an incompetent slug. Jackie wanted me to use my influence to get her mother transferred back upstairs. Fortunately, I didn't have any influence. Besides, Lila Mae's room had been filled. There were no openings on the unit. The longer Lila Mae was on the station from hell, the better we looked on the Alzheimer's unit. Jackie checked on room availability upstairs every day. When she heard a room had been vacated, she ran to the administration demanding that Lila Mae be moved up there at once. She got her wish. Now it was our turn to be alarmed. We gritted our teeth, threw back our shoulders, and said, "We can handle it. Heck, we've handled worse, haven't we?" We were prepared for the worst, and we got the best. It was a whole new ball game this time around. Lila Mae was glad to be back with people she knew, including residents she had hated before. And Jackie was delighted with all of the space in her mom's room and a regime far more enticing than what she had experienced on the unit from hell. A regimen that she liked better. Jackie began getting to know the other residents and their families. She helped out with the activities. She joined us at meal times, brought in gifts for the residents to share. The doll Lily loves is the one of the gifts that Jackie gave us. She took an active part in planning and carrying out the dance parties, and Lila Mae never once screamed at her again. We got to know Lila Mae in a whole new way. She had a wonderful sense of humor. She made us laugh several times a day. We could make her laugh, and she loved it when we were silly. She began relating with other residents, even ones who came into her room uninvited. We no longer had to urge her to attend our activities. We would tell her what we were going to do, and she would say, "Let's go." We still had to be watchful because she didn't comprehend that she couldn't walk yet. She would try to get up from her wheelchair when someone wasn't with her. And by now, Jackie was understanding of the difficulties we faced on the unit. She would not have blamed us if we had had to leave Lila Mae for a time. Lila Mae's hip healed beautifully, and now she was up walking constantly whenever she was awake and not involved in an activity of some sort. She had moments of weakness where she would lose her balance. We did not want her falling again, even though Jackie would not have blamed us if she had. Lila Mae's doctor gave us an order for a Mary Walker, which meant she could walk to her heart's content without fear of falling. A Mary Walker is a walker on wheels which has two sides composed of metal or nylon tubing. There's a seat attached to the tubing and backrest at the rear of the walker, and the tubing gate which latches in the front. So a strap attached to the seat goes between the resident's legs, and it snaps into a closure in the front gate. It's like a walking cage. It keeps the user free from falling with the ability to sit down when a person's strength ebbs. Lila Mae loved it. She could go from place to place without having one of us holding on to her and watching her movements. We loved it for the same reason. It was aptly named Mary Walker. We were all merry as could be because of that thing. So, what does Lila Mae want more than anything in the world? I think she has forgotten about longing for her home. Now she seems very content to be free to move about as she pleases. I am so happy that Dorothy wrote about Lila Mae and her daughter. Moving into memory care can be traumatic for the person with dementia because nothing is familiar, and they have lost their independence and any control that they had. For the family, it's often a decision made out of love, but accompanied by grief, guilt, and doubt. And for the staff, it takes patience, empathy, and time to understand each new resident's story. What happened with Lila Mae and Jackie is something that happens often. As trust grows, relationships change. Families begin to see the staff not as strangers, but as partners. Caregivers discover that their loved one can find safety, friendship, laughter, and even joy again, just in a different place and in a different way. Memory care doesn't erase longing for home, but with compassion, consistency, humor, and a willingness to learn one another's rhythms, it can become a new kind of home. And that's what happened for Lila Mae. She did not lose herself. She found a new way to belong.